Do you have pads of 6x8 patterned paper that you would like to turn into quick, cute cards? Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I'm going to use the Scrapbook.com Cozy Patterned Collection. You can work with any 6x8 patterned paper that you have, and I'm going to be making 2 5x7 cards with no patterned paper scrap. So I'm going to cut the patterned paper and use it completely with the template. You can download this template for free. It's the first link in the video description, and it will tell you exactly how to cut the paper, and then it will show you the sketch and tell you where to use the papers and the mat sizes. So we're going to start by cutting this 6x8 patterned paper into 3x8 inches, and then you can see that we're going to need 2 pieces for the top and bottom, and then 1 piece for the center. I'm showing you as cutting them both, the 2 smaller pieces off the bottom, but if for some reason the thing that you want to emphasize about your patterned paper is in the center, you can instead cut it out of the center. I've done that sometimes where I want like a particular piece of the pattern to be the star of the show. So my plan today is to use the more patterned bit on the top and bottom, I think, and then the more plain bit, because this is double-sided patterned paper, on the center so that my embellishments really stand out. So like that. We'll cut this second piece the same way, and then we're going to get some cardstock. I thought this orange cardstock coordinated best. I usually try to use less expensive cardstock like from Joann's or Michael's, but I just really liked this particular orange I had in my collection, and it's MFT's Candied Yam. So we're gonna cut it to 3 1/4 because we had a 3-inch piece of patterned paper, and I like to make my mats a 1/4 inch bigger. Then we're going to cut it to 4 1/4. So I have a 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch piece. On the sketch, I explained to use a 3 1/4 by 2 1/4 inch mat for the tops and bottoms. However, when I do cut a 3 1/4 by 8 1/2 inch off of this 8 1/2 by 11 paper, I am left with 4 1/4 inches. So, it's cut in half. That's technically not enough to make 2 2 1/4 inch mats. However, if I were to cut this in half and cut it to 2 1/8, it's still going to be enough, because if I position it such that it's even on all the sides, this bit is going to be covered on the final card by the other patterned paper and mat, and so I can get a more efficient use of cardstock by not using that 4 1/4. But if you're using like scraps or something, I just wanted to show you the general measurement and then show you a way to make it a little bit less or a little more economical on paper, let's say. Now I want to use a circle embellishment for my cards, so since I want to use a circle embellishment, I think I'm going to use a mat on top of it or underneath it. And I want to cut the mat from this piece of cardstock before I glue my patterned paper on top of it. I mean, I'm saying patterned paper because, it's technically from a patterned paper collection, but it's essentially a solid. So before I put my paper on top of the mat, I want to take advantage of the fact that I'm covering up all this cardstock to cut a mat for my embellishment. So my embellishments are, I've printed these, and they are available in my Etsy shop. This is something I created. I drew the little turkey and pie, and it's a whole collection of card toppers. And when you purchase them, you get them in color, black and white, and plain, so that if you wanted to stamp your own thing here, you could, or you could color in the turkey to look exactly like how you want it for your patterned paper. And you get it as a PDF so that you can like print 12 of these, and they're about 2-inch circles. But in addition, you get the PNGs of the circle. So that's just a type of file, kind of like a picture file essentially. And then you can resize them to whatever size you want. So if you need a bigger one for your card. But I just kind of tried to make it easy because I was like, I wanted to think, what is a size that would look good on a lot of A2 cards? And so this is the size that I found myself reaching for a lot. I am using a 5x7 card today, so there might be an argument for making them a little bit bigger in that situation, but there are some turkeys, the pie, there's an acorn, and some pumpkins in this Thanksgiving card topper set. So I cut these out with my Hero Arts Infinity dies, and then I'm going to take the next size up, and I'm going to use that to cut the mat for these. So let's look at assembling and finishing off this card. I'm going to use my grid mat here to help me center it. So I have a 5x7 card base, and I know this is the center line, so I'm kind of making sure that it's even out from each side. And with this one, because the design is very much this like lined up set of papers, it's more important to be consistent in the centering at the very least. So I'm kind of putting these down gently just in case the top and bottom don't line up in the end. I can kind of take a moment to test it out. And I think that at the very least it's close enough because I can make it look like one continuous line. And so then I can add my patterned paper on top. This patterned paper is slightly directional. That's okay. This sketch works with directional patterned paper, but it is something to keep in mind. I don't want my acorns upside down, for instance. It's not a big deal if they are, but just something that I'm personally keeping in mind. It's my preference for how I would like my card to look in the end. Then I'm going to put this in the center, but as you can see, there's a fairly large gap here. The cardstock that I'm using is on the thicker side. Like I said, it's from MFT. It's, you know, that really nice cardstock, works well for die cutting and that kind of thing, but I'm only using it for layering. So I do want to give a little bit of support to the next layer, and that's why I have a piece of scrap cardstock. I've glued actually 2 pieces of scrap cardstock together, and I'm going to use that underneath to provide a little support. So I put some adhesive on the top and bottom where it's going to line up like directly with the patterned paper. And as you can see, even though there's no border around here, I'm covering that bit, so that's why you don't need to use the full 2 1/4 if you don't want to, and if you want to do that little paper saving hack that I shared at the beginning. And then I'm going to put this here in the center, and this is where I'm going to add my extra adhesive, as well as for the patterned paper I put adhesive all around the edge because it would attach there and then in the center. And that gives me a little bit more of an even look, because if I were to just try to glue it down, it just kind of might like give a little bump in the paper. It's very subtle, but something I like to consider when I'm using especially thick cardstock. And then I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on my sentiment and tag, or my sentiment and embellishments, like all kind of combined into one for someone who is as sweet as pie. And I have Happy Turkey Day, and then my 2 cards are complete with no patterned paper scraps and pretty efficient use of cardstock. Quick note about finishing off the cards. I do have some free jokes available for download at jesscrafts.com, which I will link. I like to donate a lot of my cards, and so I like to have easy things to put on side of them because I'm not always writing a personal message if I don't know the recipient. So you can print and cut the jokes and tape them, you know, adhere them to the inside of the card. I also, as a paid product, these are free on jesscrafts.com, but in my Etsy shop, I have these, what I call card inserts that have things like a color by number or tic-tac-toe or, you know, games, puzzles, stuff like that for the recipient. And you can add those inside the card, you know, with the jokes, with your personal message. They are kind of, they're sized for A2 cards, but obviously they work in 5x7 because they're small enough. If you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.